Hi, I'm Jeff Foxworthy, and welcome to Gamekeeper Podcast. If you want to learn more about farming for wildlife and habitat management, then, buddy, you are in the right place. Join the Gamekeeper crew direct from Mossy Land Enhancement Studio as they discuss the latest wildlife and habitat management practices, news, and, of course, hunting. There's no telling what you'll learn, but I'm going to tell you, I bet it's interesting. Enjoy.
We're live in 3, 2, 1.
All right, here we go once again with another podcast. Welcome to the Mossy Oak Land Enhancement Studio.
The Gamekeeper Studio.
Yeah, here we are, sitting back here in the dark with a little green light glowing. And
yeah, I don't know what you did to the lights, but
they're out.
They're out.
And it's kind of nippy in here. We all have on coats.
Is the heat out too?
I don't feel any heat in here today. So across in the glass booth, we've got Jason Cleveland there. We want to
producer extraordinaire.
Hello.
Yeah, we want to touch base with him. And then Dudley's out. He's on vacation. So
what do you think he's doing?
Not much. He's wandering and looking at trees,
Gallivanting through the forest.
probably trying to kill a deer.
You think he's just looking up?
I don't know. There's no telling. If he's not looking up, he's looking at his phone.
Yeah. Well, I hope so, because he's got some tree questions to answer while he's gone.
So sitting in today, we've got Mr. Bill Gibson, who will join us and add some.
Is in the house.
Yeah, his comments. And then we'll have he'll take over the Ask Dudley segment today, and it'll be a dog question.
Be Ask Bill.
It will be.
I like it.
And
I like it too.
Mr. Bill's he's got a brown and goose down jacket on. He's got it looks like a coal miner with a light on his cap here. And are you comfortable?
He's a bird man. I mean, you can tell just by looking at him.
You're not cold.
No.
Are you comfortable? Okay.
I just stay the same temperature all day, outside, inside.
That's good. You look.
And this is my navigation light. When I come out of my deer stand in the evenings, I need a way to see.
That's right.
No, I got one of those. I like it.
Me too.
That thing may be the reason I have.
Now
one
you're
of those
talking
lights.
about the bill light, the cat bill light.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little light that claps on. I remember years ago I had one, and we were setting decoys, and I kept shining it in Lanny's face, and he ended up throwing a decoy, and it hit me in the head and made my ear bleed.
I sure did. But, truth be known, you had thrown the decoy at me first.
I don't remember that.
Well,
But anyway.
I don't use, I'm getting older, so my super night vision isn't as good as it used to be. But, yeah.
Well, those lights can be obnoxious when you're around.
Yeah, when you're looking at somebody.
Somebody asks you a question, you look right.
Huh?
Actually, he loaned you a decoy and you were returning it.
That's exactly what it was. I think Bill might have even been there.
It was full of water, and it about knocked me out.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Sometimes
He didn't mean to.
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
So look, today's show, I'm doing something a little differently. We have worked with all of our sponsors to try to get them a little extra press, but we sometimes we neglect the Mossy Oak brand.
We can't be doing that.
So today's show is going to be sponsored by Mossy Oak brand Camo and the Mossy Oak Go app.
The over-the-top platform.
Yeah, the one that we always don't know how to tell people what to do with.
Yeah.
Is our stuff there or not? I'm not sure. But
It is.
I was just going to encourage people, if you hadn't been to mossyoak.com lately and seen all the neat new patterns, the fishing patterns, that Terra, there's just some
Habitat.
really cool stuff.
Have you seen the Habitat?
Oh, it's unbelievable.
I love that
It
name.
really is. That's a great name. So I just encourage everybody just to go to mossyoak.com and peruse around a little bit.
Check it out. You got the store. You got Mossy Oak Go. Of course, there's links to all our other brands and businesses that we've got all through there too. So
Yeah.
check it out.
Good. So blood on the biologic, there's been a bunch of critters hit the ground.
What?
Yeah.
What have I missed?
So
What I miss out on?
Austin Delano went to Kansas with Rusty and crew.
This is his return visit, wasn't it?
Return. Yeah, something happened on the first one, and they
I think
didn't
it was
get it
the
done.
wind was wrong or the weather wasn't right or something.
But he killed a big deer.
With his bow?
You know what?
What is
I
it
don't
gun?
know, to be honest with you. I would expect that it was with his bow, but I think it may have been with a rifle. Now that I think about it, a little
Yeah.
bit. Yeah.
Well, when you're going on that second chance, you kind of up your.
What I
Yeah,
remember
yeah.
of the photo, there's a big deer, but it was sopping wet, like he killed it, and he had to go swimming for it.
Mm.
That's always fun.
Yeah, I've had to do that a couple times.
Yeah. So there was there's a friend of ours, Austin Ashley.
He killed a big deer
down in South Mississippi. Killed a giant 160-inch deer around Yazoo City somewhere.
Man, I'm gonna tell you what, he is an intense deer manager if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, he was telling me he's got like this 7-acre field, and he's got it broken out into, there's Final Forge, there's some deer radishes, there's
like a buffet.
It really is, and some standing corn. And he said he climbed in the stand, and just as soon as he sat down, he could see the deer at the other end of the field.
Right.
Got all excited about it. So it is a giant. It weighed 240 pounds. That's a big.
That's deer. A big deer.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
A lot of sausage on that.
Yeah, and then a couple of nights ago, I noticed that Mark Jury had Taylor and Terry and Gary LaVox, and they all three killed big deer. Now, so in one night, so that's pretty an accomplishment. But Terry's deer was an 8-point.
I saw that deer.
It scored 165 inches.
That's a giant.
That's a heck of an 8-point.
That's a real 8, ain't it, Mr. Bill?
I don't think they get much bigger than that.
No, I don't. Nothing more impressive than a 160-inch 8-point, I tell you.
Terry Jury, he doesn't get a lot of the credit he deserves, but
he is awesome.
He really is.
He is awesome.
He's a fun guy to hang around with.
He is.
Yeah. I really like it. When Gary LaVox killed a big deer, Taylor killed a big deer, so they're
just absolutely on fire, even more than they normally are. It seems like this year.
Yeah, then there's been some talk around. It seems like Missouri. And maybe Iowa as well has produced more big bucks this year. And I saw one of the scientists with the Missouri Department of Wildlife said that it was a result of hemorrhagic. A rebound from that.
Right.
But then
from a population perspective?
Yes, and that they had a number of counties go to have limits on how big the deer, if you were going to shoot a buck, how he had their size limits. So they're saying it's just kind of a perfect storm. All this stuff is led together to have some really big
monster
deer this
deer.
year.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, what about you didn't say anything about your protege? Mac Thatcher killed a good deer in the Delta.
You know what? You were absolutely right. What was I thinking?
I don't know. I mean, I can't believe you wasn't even going to put the biologic guy on the biologic list. And I will say he killed it with a deer radish, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah, well, he killed it with a rifle. But
the deer radish is hell.
In a deer radish field. Yeah. No, but that's his biggest buck. So congratulations to Mike Thatcher.
Great deer.
Yeah.
He said he said he grunted him in too. So. Got a little live action.
I heard that story too.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't
have you're turning a little green over there, Bobby.
No. Every deer hunter's got a story.
Yeah.
And he certainly had one for his deer.
So. Of course. That's what it's all about.
No, that's exactly what it's about. Congrats to Mac.
Yeah, go Mac. Congrats, man. Oh, and then Steele. Jordan's little boy killed his first deer. We've had several firsts. Man, it's been going on around here.
Mm-hmm.
So,
don't you know there was some excitement in that blind?
Right. And I think we've got a little, I think there's a little hair on the biologic too. You know?
And who would that be?
Our boy, Dudley Phelps.
Do tell.
You hadn't heard this yet?
I have not heard this.
I heard he was down there at Ebenezer and missed the connection on a big one.
Did he really?
We should call him.
With a rifle?
I'm not sure. That's just all I've heard. I hadn't had a chance to dig into the story much.
Yeah, well, nobody's
now
saying
we will.
To him,
yeah,
we'll grill.
him. Yeah, that'll be some interesting conversation next week when he gets back from gallivanting through the woods or whatever he's doing.
Yeah, well, I did not know that he had missed one. Well, Mr. Bill, have you got a deer story this year?
Not this year. I filled my freezer up with elk.
Hey, it doesn't make it. Deer season just doesn't seem so intense, does it?
Yeah.
How much meat did you get? Lanny got about an armful of snack sticks.
Had a lot of bullet holes in it.
I got when I got back from New Mexico, I had over 300 pounds of boned out meat.
Goodness gracious!
Yeah, they're big old critters.
He was somewhere between 800 and 900 pounds live weight.
Wow.
Have you eaten much of it yet?
Every now and then.
Yeah, man, I've been tearing it up.
Me too.
He doesn't look like he's missed many meals.
No, we ain't gonna miss eating around here now.
Not hardly. But yeah, I had a good trip out there.
Good.
I got some elk sticks. I forgot I brought them for us to eat today. I need to get those out.
Yeah, we should. I just hate to eat your whole elk in 2 episodes.
We're not gonna. Well, you're right. I didn't get as much meat as Mr. Bill. Mine was more tenderized.
How many shots did it take for you to kill your bull?
The first one knocked him down, and then I put a polish off on it.
Yeah, the insurance policy. Yeah, okay.
Well, I didn't knock mine down on the first one, but I did 6 more. Yes.
Oh, Lord. We have beat this dead horse.
It's okay. I mean, it needs beating for me, especially. So.
Well, look, moving this thing along, let's touch base with Richie and see what's going to be on the Gamekeeping.
What are you working on down in the production
for the outdoor channel? Jason, if you could see if we could get Richie, I sure would appreciate it.
Hey! Good grief!
What y'all up to?
Trying to figure out was that a machine gun or a deer grunt?
I hadn't been able to work in 2 days because Richie's practicing his grunt call over here.
Tis the Rut in Mississippi.
We're right in the middle of the rut, we out here checking our these game camper pics and everything, man. We got bucks running everywhere, and so David's over here working on his grunt call.
Aren't y'all supposed to be working on like some videos or something?
We're supposed to, man, but
Tis the Rut.
That is the oddest sounding grunt call.
Yeah, it sounds like a Model T horn.
hey, like I said, practice makes perfect, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, somebody needs to practice.
Yeah, so y'all need to keep on practicing.
So, Richie, what's going to be on the outdoor channel this week with Gamekeepers?
This week on Gamekeepers, we got Mossy Oak culture. We dive into the origins of Mossy Oak. We talk to Toxie, Mr. Bill. You guys are on there. A little bit of turkey hunting. So it's a really cool episode.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite episodes.
Talking about gamekeeping.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's Jess and Lanny get a turkey, and then they, and you're in the search for a turkey there, Bobby, so it's all fun.
Yeah, it's always fun when you get a turkey and Bobby doesn't.
Okay, all right. I've grown tired.
I can't
of
wait to watch
already.
this. Yeah, this is one of my favorite shows ever.
Yeah. Okay, all right. Well, that is a good one. There are parts of it I don't enjoy as much as others. But.
You can't win them all, Bobby.
All right. Well, look, you guys carry on. Get back to work. See if we can get something accomplished by the end of the day.
Yeah, work on that grunt call. I might want to tone that grunt down a little bit.
Okay. All right. So it's about time for us to call our guest. The guest today, which we hadn't mentioned at all. This is going to be kind of a walk down
I am
memory
excited
lane.
about this guy.
Yeah, Jim Crumley.
The nicest, coolest guy in the outdoor industry. That's the moniker that I'm giving Jim.
Yeah, well, you know what? I would agree.
Yeah.
And he's just a true Southern gentleman.
Yep. An OG gamekeeper.
When you say OG,
it's he was gamekeeping before gamekeeping was cool, Bobby. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
Is that the abbreviation for original?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a slang term. Yeah, but basically would say one of the originals.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just can't keep up with all these slang terms you guys keep coming up with.
Don't worry, it's not a new one. It's I'm a child of the '90s, so
OG. Well, so Jim Crumley, and he kind of he's credited with getting the camo revolution started.
Yeah, I would think he was the godfather of modern day hunting camouflage.
Yeah, TreBark, as we knew it. But he is such an interesting guy. He's got a mountain over there in Virginia, I think, that he manages. He loves deer,
bow hunting,
turkeys.
loves whitetail deer, loves turkey. We got really fortunate to spend a lot of time with him, and we'll talk to this about him during the Portland landing days. So we've had a close business relationship with Jim for years. I think since 2002. So I'm excited to talk to him.
That's one thing before we call him Mr. Joe down at Portland Landing. Just thought Mr. Jim.
Well, they were two peas in a pod.
That walked on water.
Oh yeah,
yeah. He really loved him.
Yeah, I think if it hadn't been for Sherry, and I'm sure he's got an unbelievable place in Virginia, I have no doubt in my mind he would have spent the rest of his days at Portland Landing. He loved it that much.
Yeah.
All he talked about was I'm like, what are you doing, Jim? I'm scouting.
Oh man! All right, well, Jason, why don't we see over there if you don't mind? Let's see if we can get him on the telephone.
When I first bought this farm a short time ago, every single field was grown up with brush 8 and 10 feet high. But it went from that to this. And even though I planted biologic with very little moisture in the ground, I was really amazed at the results. I just sat in this field with my wife as she shot her very first deer. We could not be happier. We made a memory that will last a lifetime, all because of the effectiveness of the best food plot seed on the market. Biologic is better seed, pure and simple. Log on to plantbiologic.com to learn more.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Jim Crumley, this is Bobby Cole and Lanny Wallace and Bill Gibson. How you doing?
I am doing just fine. I'm still a little bit short. But this is quite a treat to be able to talk to some of my favorite people in the history of history.
Man.
We're excited. We couldn't think of any other guests. We were trying to come up with something. Somebody said, "What about Jim Crumley?" I said, "Well, let's call him." Now
And he said it's live.
Shoot, man.
It's our honor to get to talk to you, Mr.
Absolutely,
Jim.
Mr.
We've
Jim.
been kind of reminiscing a little bit about you, and from time to time, your ears probably burn because we talk about you and your love for Portland Landing and our love for Portland Landing.
Absolute love for wildlife, love for Portland. We had a good time down there for a few years. We really did.
Oh, we sure did.
Yeah, Mr. Jim taught me all kind of stuff about scouting. Man, he was a scouting machine.
Yeah,
and bow hunting. And, where I get all of my venison aging techniques comes from Jim Crumley, too.
Interestingly enough, he taught me how to make your own chewing tobacco.
Boom. He's just a plethora of information. Yeah. I told y'all he was the coolest guy in the outdoor industry, and he is.
He really is. Well, so what has been going on with you now? Are you at the retirement home, or what are you doing?
Yeah, I'm retired in my home. I'm trying to make myself great again, but Sherry keeps saying again. I'm kind of spinning my wheels on that, and just hunting, just waiting on the next season. We're finishing. Well, we finish up deer season this month, and then I'll kick back into squirrel season for January.
Good deal. How was the rut this year up there?
We did real well, as a matter of fact. Sherry got a real nice buck, and I got a nice buck, and we had guests come in that got a nice buck, and then Sherry killed 2 more does than that. So we've had an excellent season. We had a good acorn crop.
All right.
You never heard of, just left yesterday.
Who's that?
An old boy named C.J. Davis.
Oh, my goodness. He's just popping up everywhere these days.
He
Start talking about long-tailed cats and Portland Landing, and here he comes.
We need to ask Mr. Jim, when all his time down at Portland Landing, did he see a long-tailed cat?
You know what? I never did. I saw a lot of spotted pigs, but I shot most of them. I never did see a long-tailed cat. No. I can't say. I never saw an ostrich, but I saw ostrich tracks.
There you go. Mm. Do you remember us seeing that cat?
Yes.
Ha.
Yes.
So he remembers.
That was quite an event, quite a story. And I don't doubt there. Just like the ostrich was there, too.
Yeah. There was an ostrich down there.
I think everybody thinks that there was a chance except Bobby. He's of course, you know how Bobby and my relationships go. The relationship goes.
Well, I would have liked to have seen it. I really would have. And I would like to believe that those kind of things are out there, but it's just hard.
Well, Jim can talk about and how big Portland was. So, and I don't want to get off on the long-tailed cat. We're actually wanting to to Jim about more than anything. Bobby always goes here though for some reason.
Yeah, it accidentally goes there. But let me ask you this, Mr. Jim. So I didn't do a very good job of introducing you. Prior to you getting on the phone, we had told everybody about you were going to be your guest. So I think everybody knows who Jim Crumley is.
Yes,
and
the godfather of modern day camouflage.
That's right. And if you Google Jim Crumley, a Scottish wildlife photographer is the first thing that pops up. I don't know how that happened.
Really?
But Jim Crumley is an amazing hunter. He's been all over the world. He's done it, and he's done it with a smile on his face. He really is the nicest guy. But one of the things that's always fascinated me about you, Mr. Crumley, is you've got this mountain over there somewhere in Virginia or West Virginia border right in there that you've been managing for a long time. And I'd love for you to just kind of talk a little bit about that.
Yes. Sherry and I got married in 1985, and I moved the TreBark company from Northern Virginia to Roanoke, Virginia, because of my contacts from college days at Virginia Tech. And so in 85, we were operating from 85 to 90. We lived in Roanoke, very close to our TreBark offices in Roanoke, Virginia. In 1990, our bank president called and said the property next to his hunting property, was now available, and that he wanted us to buy it. So we did in 1990, thinking that it would be a getaway retreat for us, almost an hour out of Roanoke and right on the James River. And so a year after owning it and coming out just on weekends, we sold the house in Roanoke and moved in here full time in 1991. That was basically having my first piece of dirt that you can dream and do your own things. And the deer herd in our county, and particularly on this property, was in shambles. There were a lot of deer, and a lot of turkeys, but the harvest record of the people was not good. They would just they'd shoot everything, and you know that story. As a matter of fact, the first fall of 1991, when I bow hunted at least a half a day, weather permitting, the entire season, and I saw one 8-point buck the entire year.
Mm-hmm.
That's how
patience.
The older owners certified that every spike was an inferior deer and should be shot, and that type of thing, and rarely shot does. So we got into, of course, our state people, our DMAP program, our biologist, in particular Matt Knox, a good friend of Brian Murphy's. He's out of University of Georgia's biologist program. Matt's still actually our deer biologist. So we got that going, and we got QDMA involved with us. And the first thing I had to do was preach to our contiguous neighbors, because not like Portland, when you're talking about relatively small tracts of land, to get quality wildlife management, everybody around you's
everybody's got to pitch in. That's right.
Be on the same page with you, and that was the biggest hurdle, I think, more than anything. Now, however, 30 years later, we had great success. It has a lot to do with the information I got from those guys and other people. A lot of stuff I carried back in my head from Joe Champion, and of doing this and doing that. What has transpired is, when we first moved here and I was younger, and it's always been a one-man maintenance show. I did try, and I usually still do try, a lot of different things with food plots, but probably the last 20 years, I have pretty much focused on doing everything in the world you can to encourage your natural wild vegetation and stuff that the critters are used to having anyway, and making making more of that and making that stuff better. And that's worked for us, I think, better than anything. We did, because of Joe Champion from the old Portland days, institute Sawtooth Oaks back in 1992. And at that time, our state, I guess, arborists told me that we were too far north and that they would not survive. Joe Champion was right, and the state arborist was wrong.
Wow!
Because we were definitely the first in our county to have Sawtooth Oaks, and that has been probably the best thing that I ever did to our property, because when we don't have a good natural acorn crop, those things generally do produce. And it just becomes a magnet situation for our property. But we do other things too. We do everything we can to generate more persimmons. We do everything we can. We have pawpaws, not that the deer like them that much, but other critters do. Blackberries. Blackberries are a big deal as far as our wildlife, and the more that we can encourage and spread them seems to help every single year. As a matter of fact, the acorns are dwindling now, and you'll ride our property and you'll see deer munching on blackberry leaves. So have just been superior ideas for us.
So Lanny's right. You're an OG gamekeeper.
That's right.
Now, do you know what OG means?
I'm afraid to ask.
It's original. Original. It just stands for being original. In other words, you were gamekeeping before gamekeeping was cool, Mr. Jim. That's what I was just trying to say.
Well, it's the kind of thing. Everything changes when you're doing your own dirt.
Right.
Everything changes. Everything does. The one of the latest things, and I think I mentioned every year, I don't do a whole bunch of food plots, but at all. But I'll take one food plot each year and I'll do something that I've never done. And last year, an old friend that has a big commercial produce operation next county over does a huge commercial pumpkin business, commercial pumpkins. And he called the year before last, asked if I wanted to come and help them shoot damage permits at night on all these does that were coming into his pumpkin patch. And I said, deer like pumpkin? He said, oh, buddy. He said, I'm telling you what. And so I planted pumpkins for the first time last fall, not this year, in last year's crop. And it's the most incredible thing. We had bears playing with them like soccer balls.
Huh.
We have tons of bears now. But deer, great time of day to the deer. Once the deer learn what they are, and I had no clue until last year. I didn't know deer love pumpkins.
Are they pawing them and eating them, or just eating them?
They bust them open with their hooves and eat them.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
Every bit of it. So I think I'm at the age and stage now of doing anything I can to encourage critters. And of course, I'm talking deer here, but everything you do for the deer is good for the turkeys. And actually, our bear population has exploded. The state has encouraged better seasons, or we still can't bait for bears, but the bear population in the state is helping trim that down because we have an awful lot of black bears. But trying something new like that every year has just been exciting for us, and pretty much everything works.
That's interesting. Well, so on the black bear perspective, years ago, I always heard stories about people poaching bears just to get their gallbladder. Is that still going on? Is that still going on?
Well, one of the largest operations for arrests on that was completed in Virginia and West Virginia and Ohio. Probably been 10 or so more years ago now. But all the game departments worked together and did this huge undercover operation, literally game officers going into small communities and working at the grocery store. And I think this thing the undercover went on for a couple of seasons, maybe even 3 seasons. And they ended up with something like 50 arrests in 3 states, and the evidence that they had killed over 500 bears. It was really something.
Wow.
So, I think they may have. I haven't heard any more of it being that bad around here anymore. But I don't know whether it still exists or not. Probably so. But I don't hear about it anymore like I used to.
Yeah, that's a sad story that people are poaching animals for those reasons. But poaching an animal for any reason is not good. But for selling those gallbladders.
Yeah, wanting waste, just wasting everything.
Terrible story.
Not good.
So look, what if you when we want to talk to you about camo here in just a second, but I want to ask you one more question about managing your property. And if you had 1 or 2 things that you could tell a guy, and you may have already mentioned that when you started talking about natives, but for deer, and 1 or 2 tips that you could give a guy for turkeys, for what you've learned in the past.
From property management?
For property management, yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, for property management for turkeys, once again, a Joe Champion deal that was not supposed to work up here. I was supposed to be too far north. Chupas were incredible as far as, because nobody else around me did them. And just like the sawtooths. And so my first year with chupas, and once again, this was probably 15 years ago, was absolutely phenomenal. We had some of the best turkey hunting that you could ever imagine in those first couple of years. But then as the bear population grew and the bears found out about chupas, I couldn't plant them anymore. It was just a waste of time. They literally, you would plant them. And, matter of fact, the last time I planted them, my neighbor who has a cow-calf operation was driving by, and he said, "What did you put in those plots that you turned yesterday?" And I said, "Chupas again." And he said, "Well, this was lunchtime." He said, "There's 5 bears in them now."
They out there digging them up and eating them? Yeah.
And I did not chupa crop that year, and I haven't planted chupas since. But if I were able to, that would be my number one. And everybody turkey hunts knows that. That would be my number one turkey tip. It just works. It's simple as that. And with the deer, it's the bush hogging. If you're in a place that you can do the sawtooth thing, that certainly helps, especially if you're a bow hunter. And that was one interesting thing. If you'll remember, at Portland, by the time bow season opened, the sawtooths were pretty much gone.
Yeah, sure were.
And so when Joe started giving me more information, and another one that I worked with on the sawtooths was Bo Pittman.
At White Oak. That's right.
Yeah,
he was one of the first.
And we still keep in touch with Bo and Tui. But Bo, I gleaned a lot of information from Bo and Joe, and the whole thing of when us being 2 to 4 weeks in the growing season, and when the sawtooths start dropping. Of course, now our bears are climbing our sawtooths before they even start dropping,
shaking them out.
It sounds like pigs up there.
Yeah, it sounds like a pig, but smarter and bigger,
like they do to apple trees. But the timing of sawtooths in my part of the maturation and the dropping of the acres was just perfect for bow season. But just absolute. I mean, they would start dropping when our bow season was starting.
Oh, that's great.
It's just phenomenal. And of course, it attracts bears too. So you're going to get, if it just comes before dark, you're going to get a shot at a bear. So the sawtooths, would be for the deer, but probably the best equipment has been just a bush hog or brush hog, whatever people you want to call it, behind the tractor, and keeping bush hog trails to me for setting bow stands is just like hunting over bait. Got to have bush hog trails through your property, through the blackberries and stuff that you're growing naturally. The honeysuckle. We even have autumn olive that produce berries for the wildlife. But I keep bush hog trails, and deer just use them like we use the interstate. It really makes for more successful bow hunting. So I would have to say, even more than a tiller on my tractor for food plots, that the bush hog on my tractor has become more important for producing the type of habitat that the deer and the turkeys and the bears like.
That's interesting.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah.
Good tip.
Yeah, it really was.
Yeah, that was a great tip.
He never lets you down.
He's got it. He's just got it.
Yeah.
Well, look, we need to ask you, and just to get you to kind of go back in time just a little bit and talk about TreBark back in the day.
Yeah, the TreBark story.
Do you today grab an old piece of TreBark pants and jacket and go sit in the woods with it? I mean, it's just so nostalgic to me when I think about it.
I do. I still wear TreBark pretty regularly. Our critters, they haven't learned what it is yet either, I guess. But I do, and I get daily. As a matter of fact, this morning woke up to a messenger from my Facebook, a guy named Eric. Wanted to know if there's any chance TreBark was ever going to come back. And of course, I just do the same thing I do with everybody, is to say that that's a decision Mossy Oak maybe will make one day, but they are the owners of it now. So it's amazing how people didn't know that, even after 20 years.
Yeah, 20 years. That's right.
Well, I don't know if we've ever really tried to tell anybody that.
No.
So I get that. I get people telling me, emailing me or Facebook and say, I just found this TreBark something on eBay. I can't believe I was able to get it. And all that stuff is very self-satisfying to me, self-rewarding. I had the original TreBark on when I shot my buck this year, so I still sure.
Well, what year did you start TreBark?
Well, I started working on it in 75. I incorporated the business in 79, and I sold the first two-piece suits in 80.
Wow.
And I know
OG,
Bobby will remember.
OG.
Yeah, I do.
I remember it too. No, I had it before I had Mossy Oak.
Yeah,
I had it
too.
I was born in 75, but that was the first camouflage pattern that I had. No doubt about it.
Well, and that happens with an awful lot of people. Again, I remember that I shot my first deer I wore original TreBark. And those people are in their 50s now, or 60s or 70s even. But I get a lot of that. I know Bobby, and probably Lanny too will remember. I know Bobby will. Because where I grew up in Bristol, Virginia, I didn't grow up hunting deer or turkeys at all. I was very late, especially compared to you guys and Foxy, because you were hunting deer and turkeys when you could shoot a weapon.
Right.
But I up on with my dad with rabbits and squirrels and ducks and quail and grouse and those type of things. It wasn't until I got to Virginia Tech my freshman year of 65 that a buddy that was at Tech was already a bow hunter and a spring gobbler hunter. And he introduced me to that my freshman year, and I became a turkey hunter and a deer hunter. And when I got out of Tech in 69 and moved to work at T.C. Williams High School in Alexandria, I've met friends up there who were in an archery club and were avid bow hunters. And then I became addicted specifically to bow hunting and to spring gobbler hunting. So that was 1969, 70. And the more addicted I got, I said, one of these days, because obviously all we had to wear was military issue camo.
Mm-hmm.
And people were teaching themselves and spooking their own game, saying, well, what can I do? So it was like Toxie said, he used to grow up thinking about how he would make himself invisible.
Yeah.
That wasn't me. I was trying to think of what could I wear that would make me look like I belong.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I disappear, but that I would belong. And it just got one thing led to another, and I just finally realized every time I let an arrow go or every time I pulled the trigger on a gobbler, I had my back against a tree trunk, and it was just as simple as that. So why doesn't somebody do a camouflage specifically for hunters? And so you got to understand, the only places I'd ever hunted by the 70s was Eastern Shore, Maryland, Virginia, and West Virginia. So it wasn't like, well, what do I need to spot and stalk an elk or anything like that?
Very specific.
Yeah, and the world was just not as connected back then, too. So
that's right. So had a good job at the Alexandria school system and was single and just gave it a try. And after 1980. After that season, I sold all those 2-piece suits through an ad in Bowhunter magazine. And then the next year I retired from the school system in 1981. And it's been, it's still a fun ride. I won't even say it was a great ride. It is a great ride.
Well, I tell you one thing about Jim Crumley and bow hunting. I have never seen anybody as obsessed with bow hunting as Jim Crumley.
Yeah, that's saying a lot.
And I've been around a lot of bow hunters.
Yeah,
I throw some water on that now. I've got to admit something. Are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm sitting down.
I don't know that I am.
Well, after 50 seasons of bow hunting deer only with the bow and arrow, I turned 70 in that 70th year because Sherry was smoking me with her muzzle loader and her rifle. I now have expanded my horizon, and I do, in fact, hunt deer with other things besides a bow and arrow.
Hey, that's all good.
Good for you.
Hey, Bobby and I talk about it all the time.
At age 73.
That's
so
awesome.
I am still fully enjoying my seasons, I promise you. But I am no longer exclusively a bow hunter as I was for 50 seasons.
Man, he was. He wouldn't budge because I'd try to get him over to that gunpowder every now and then. He said,
Yeah. Well, good for you. It took you long enough.
Yeah, that gunpowder smells good in the winter, doesn't it? Oh, that's awesome.
Well, you know what? You really are one of our favorite people.
He's an amazing person, amazing. Yeah,
you come up in conversation a lot.
Yeah,
and because I can remember being young and seeing you being successful in what you did, and traveling the country and the world, hunting and being an evangelist for hunting. And there's not a better person to do that.
Not a better person. No question
you and
about
your
it.
wife, Miss Sherry, are just two great people.
Yeah, they are.
Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, I remember being young, and you remember the TreBark logo? It had TreBark, and it had this silhouette of Jim, you know. And so I had seen that my whole life, and then when I first met him, it was like this beam of light coming down.
Yeah, there he is.
Oh, there he was.
Yeah.
And then we got to spend several years together at Portland Landing, so I'll quit talking about it, but that was great.
And
times.
you know, from the very beginning, Toxie always liked Mr. Jim.
They were two peas in a pod.
They just got then that always impressed me.
And I remember
that's a real interesting relationship, and it was a combination. Neither one of us really can explain it. It was just the personalities, I guess. Bob Dixon had a lot to do with that too, by the way.
I remember that early on.
He became such a good friend while we were competitors. And that kind of led into Toxie and I becoming good friends while we were competitors in then when it came time for me to say, you know what, I think I'm going to cash it in now, there just wasn't, there wasn't going to be any discussion on, because I had advisors saying, you better go sell it to Cabela's, you better go sell it to Bass Pro, you better go sell it to this, you better get bids from everybody, you bet you did it. And all I did was see if Toxie was interested.
Wow.
And he said, you bet, come on down, let's talk about it. And it was simple as that. Nobody else knew it was even what was going on.
Until we announced it at the SHOT Show.
Yeah, you don't, it's those relationships are hard to explain, but that's the truth. We were already good friends while we were still competitors.
Yeah. You
don't hear that type of story a lot these days.
Yeah.
You sure don't.
No, you don't. And I didn't, of course I didn't have, the other competitors I had, I just never did really hit it off with that well.
Well, I think it speaks to the quality of the people that we're talking about.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, tell us, we'd love to have you come back on. And I tell you what we really ought to do, Lanny, is we ought to try to, once this pandemic is over, is get him down turkey.
Yes.
Hunting. And maybe we could take him to the dummy line.
Maybe we can take him to the dummy line.
You know, and we'd love to be around you just a little bit.
Yeah. We'd love to get back in the woods with you. That's for sure, Mr. Jim.
That too. And the offer goes both ways. Y'all are welcome up here anytime. Bobby, you almost did it one time. Cause somebody, didn't you have a relative at Tech or something? You almost came up one spring turkey season.
That's right. I have a nephew that went to Virginia, University of Virginia. Sure did.
Virginia. Okay, that's.
Yeah, I probably sent him up to school just so he could turkey hunt on your place. So.
And we about it. I said, well, you need to come and hunt. And, of course, Bill Sugg and Bob Turner came up and swore they'd never come again because our hills were too steep.
Know that feeling.
Oh, wow.
He got stuck about that.
Oh, me.
Well, look, we have enjoyed having you on, and I'm gonna get with Lanny. We're gonna see if we can't make that happen, and I'm sure Toxie would like to
absolutely
get in on this for sure.
Yeah, no question about it. We can all rendezvous in Alabama again. I like it.
You just let.
Yeah. Well, will you please tell your sweet wife, Miss Sherry, that we said hello?
Absolutely.
She's your favorite fan. I sure will.
She's so nice.
She is a nice lady. She is.
Well, look, we've enjoyed having. Is there anything that we can do to help you? Is there a website you want to promote or anything that you got going on that we can help you with? There's 4 or 5 people listening to this.
Yeah, there's at least 2.
I do not have a website selling anything anymore. We do have an Airbnb rental. If anybody is up in Botetourt County, Virginia, 8 miles off Interstate 81, heading to Washington, D.C. or anywhere, they can go on Airbnb and find our cottage at Springwood, Buchanan, Virginia. That's where your buddy CJ stayed.
That's good.
CJ.
So,
CJ.
But that's my retirement. Our retirement project is our rental properties now.
Well, that's
it. After that, for me now, it's just going to be whatever season comes in next, and that's what I hope everybody else does.
Amen on that one now.
Well, you're a great example of how to live your life, and people ought to take notice. And I would encourage any of the young people that are listening to this to Google Jim Crumley at TreBark Camo and just read about you.
Yeah, and he's on Facebook. I gotta go friend him up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. It's always a pleasure, buddy.
Merry Christmas to y'all.
Merry Christmas to you, and thank you. And we'll be talking to you in the future for sure.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
See you, Jim.
Bye-bye. Well,
Jim Crumley.
Yes, I always enjoy talking to him.
Told you he's the coolest guy in the outdoor industry.
You know, when you see, he's worth going to the NWTF show.
Absolutely.
Because he's always there walking around, and he's just such a special guy.
And I remember even in my young years in the early trade show scene, what he was talking about, man, it was like the Mossy Oak and the TreBark booth where we wanted them to be close together because, I mean, all we were talking about was bow hunting and turkey hunting, you know. So
one time when he was here, he came and I cooked some flathead catfish that you may have given me actually, and we grilled it like steaks. It was really good. Well, when we were outside, he saw how much I love chewing tobacco.
Oh yeah,
and he said, "Look, let me tell you what I do."
Give you a little secret.
And he had a Ziploc bag, and he would take. I can't remember what brand of tobacco it was, but then he would add a little bourbon to it.
Wait, I remember this.
And then he'd roll it up, and he taught me how you could put it in your wallet, and nobody'd even know you had it. I mean, he had figured all this out, you know. But I never did get on the bourbon tobacco. But
I think I remember CJ and him down there in Portland a little bit of that.
Yeah, but he also he said, so I'll make this, and then he said, I've got a refrigerator that I don't keep anything but red worms in. So somewhere where he lived, he had a refrigerator full of worms.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just an interesting guy.
Yeah, no, super. And a tinkerer, you know, he always thinking on something, how to make it better, you know.
Yeah.
Just that kind of guy. Yeah. Super cool.
All right. Well, why don't we take a break and pay some bills, Cleveland? If Cleveland, are you awake over there? And when we come back, we can ask Mr. Bill.
Talk a little bit about dogs.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right.
Hey folks, it's Jeff Foxworthy. You know, when I was a kid, my dad bought back the farm that he had grown up on, and I absolutely loved that place. I knew every square inch of it. It truly was my favorite place on earth. And when you're looking to find a favorite place for you and your family, Mossy Oak Properties can help. Visit mossyoakproperties.com to begin your search today.
Since Dudley's not here, we won't have a Ask Dudley, but let's ask Mr. Bill.
Hey, man, and if you need to know something about dogs, Bill is your guy.
He really is. So, Laney, you got a question?
Yeah, I mean, I think, Mr. Bill, you've probably heard this a lot, and we talk about it a lot, but, you know, we often hear about, you know, obviously we're raising hunting dogs, so we like to hunt with our dogs. But one of the questions I always have is when, you know, if I'm hunting at daybreak, when do I feed my dog?
Well, there's a lot of theories out there about the protein content, the fat content, everything of the food, and what's the best time to feed. Well, to me, the best time to feed during hunting season is in the afternoon, so the dog can digest the food overnight, build his muscles up to maximum power, so he's ready to go the next morning, he or she.
Gotcha. So you'd want to feed the night before a morning hunt.
Right.
Gotcha.
Because this time of year, maybe not so much in Mississippi at times, but it's cold out there. The water's cold, the temperature is cold, and they burn a lot of energy. So what you want to do is maximize their energy buildup overnight so that they don't get hypothermia from being too cold. They got everything built up.
Would there be a time that you would want to switch food formulations in preparation for hunting season, or?
I don't switch. Most people, a lot of people now anyway, recommend 30-20, 30% protein, 20% fat. We feed 28-18 year round. And because if we feed 30-20 year round, then the dogs get kind of hyper when they're not out actively engaged in hunting every day.
Right, because of the carbohydrates.
Yeah. And then when they get hyper in the kennel, we found that we have better results with 2018. A lot of people say, well, 30-20, you don't get as many soft tissue injuries. But, you know, I don't know if I ever remember having a soft tissue injury on 28-18. So I'll stick with that. I don't like changing food. I don't like decreasing the amount, increasing
So you wouldn't even increase or decrease seasonally?
No, we feed 3.5 cups a day to our dogs. And that's it.
So it sounds like it's more about consistency than anything.
Right. I like to be consistent in everything that I do. Although in my old age, it gets harder to be consistent because I can't remember what I did.
Are you pretty consistent?
I thought when you said OG, you were talking about an old guy.
Yeah, that's good. That's real good.
That is good.
Yeah. So I've got a quick question. So what about if you've got an older dog and in a hunt makes him stiff the next night? Is there something you can do for him the night before, or the morning of? That I'm just asking, is there a veterinarian approved? Can you give him an Advil or a Tylenol or something?
I give him a child's aspirin or something, but the best thing to do is when they get older is put them on glucosamine and Chondroitin to lubricate their joints and everything to keep that soreness down. But you have to do it long term. It's not something you can give today and expect results in the morning.
Right. And I've done that about 2 months ago, and I can tell a big difference we're doing the glucosamine. Is that my pronouncing that right? Yeah. And I can tell a big difference.
Are you doing that in pill, or are you just pouring it on the food?
It's a little like a pellet, like a little dog chewy.
Yeah, you just give it to him.
Yeah, he loves them.
Yeah, and it's really good for the joints, especially when they get old. I probably need to be taking it myself.
Yeah, I could use a little bit myself.
Lenny, I can tell a difference.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can see the difference. Like Copper, I can see the difference in him when I just walk by the office and he's walking around. He's not just
as stiff.
Yeah, he's not as stiff as he was.
Yeah. You got to take care of these dogs. There's a lot to it as they get older.
And these original dogs, they're getting. I bet they're 8 years old now, aren't they?
Yeah, or older. Let's see. He was born in 2012.
Yeah,
he's
December
8.
of 2012.
He's 8. Yeah.
So this year we're the same year. We're the same age.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look at there.
But
brothers.
If you look at the dog food, it has glucosamine in it too. But it's you need to supplement that.
Yes, sir.
That's fine for a younger dog, but when they get old, start getting up 8, 9 years old, they need a supplement.
Well, I definitely need to kick that in for Goose. I mean, not that he moves much, but when he does, I want him to be really smooth and fluid. Yeah. So, is there what particular milligram? Is there a milligram or a dosage or anything?
I don't know. I'll bring you what I'm giving Copper.
Where'd you get it?
We get it online somewhere
at the Amazon,
and it comes in this little white thing.
You tried them yet? They taste good.
They taste they're kind of rubbery.
He's been taking them too.
Hey, Copper walks around a little better than
yeah, he's OG, old guy.
Yeah.
What? Right on. We're going to have to kick Dudley off. Only Bill now.
Well, we have enjoyed having you here today.
Absolutely.
Look across the table there, and it just makes my heart jump because you're one of our favorite people. So we're glad to have you.
I don't know so much about that, but I hang around.
Well,
he is OG. If you need to know what OG, there it is.
So, Lanny, let's look at wrapping this one up. And what did we learn today?
Man, I tell you what, I never really thought about how good of a wildlife management tool a bush hog could be. It sounds like Jim's really focused on native plant management and creating travel corridors. So that really, he's right. I mean, it's funny. I get so laser beam focused on food plots, not to knock food plots. Obviously, that's the biggest wildlife management tool we have in our arsenal. But listening to what he's doing with the bush hog and sawtooth and blackberries and all the different native plant management he's doing. Really cool.
So, yeah, it was. And he's got such a diverse place.
Yeah.
He's the first guy I've heard talk about autumn olive in a long time.
Yeah, me too.
They're very invasive. And
right.
A lot of people you talk to won't plant them because of that.
Yeah. It was a huge wildlife tree for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, but it did catch some flack about, its ability to outcompete things. But it's still a great wildlife. I mean, great life. And like Toxie says, everything's native somewhere.
That's right.
he was just the first guy I've heard talk about that in a long time. I planted some for quail.
Yeah.
And, but uplands love them.
Yeah, it's great. Edge, and we used to recommend it a lot for screens and stuff. So,
yeah. All right. Well, look, I've enjoyed today, and I
got to get Goose some chondroitin pills. Learn that too.
Glucosamine.
Chondroitin. What's chondroitin?
It's another supplement.
Okay.
But feed him both.
Yeah, you go.
Yeah, we'll do that.
He'll do well on that.
All right. Well, is there anything else? I think that's about it from my perspective.
You're not going to share your did you know?
Well, it's a quick one. All right. So, do you know what the fastest land mammal in the Western Hemisphere is?
In the Western Hemisphere.
And I'll give you a clue. It's not a jaguarundi.
Is it an antelope?
It is the antelope. Yeah.
Oh, give me a trumpet or something.
Yeah.
I got one. And I learned this because of Hayden doing his first book report in school.
Yeah.
Did you know that Black Beauty was a boy horse?
Huh. I don't guess I did that.
What is a boy horse called?
Stallion.
A stallion. Okay,
Yeah.
there we go.
Yeah.
Black Beauty was a stallion.
Was he really?
Yes.
You would have assumed Black Beauty would have been a mare.
Yeah, it was a. Yeah, that's from what I understand. I didn't read it. I'm just picking up on what Shannon.
Yeah, you sure you're picking that up right?
I did because I asked Shannon. I'm like, look, I'm gonna have to break this out on Bobby on the Did You Know section.
Yeah. Okay.
So you didn't know that Black Beauty was a stallion?
No, I did not.
All right.
No.
Little random fact.
Yeah, thank you. Well, Walt Disney has
ADD over here.
made its way onto the podcast. All right. Well, so I guess that's it. And Lanny, why don't you give your
Get us out of here, Cleve.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Gamekeeper Podcast. And be sure to tune in again. Subscribe to Gamekeeper Farming for Wildlife magazine, and don't miss the Mossy Oak Properties Fistful of Dirt podcast with my good buddy, Ronnie Cuz Strickland.